Welcome back to Good Girls Gotta Heal, the podcast where we learn to release the weight of childhood trauma and step into our most authentic selves. It's time to ditch that good girl mask and embrace a life of ease, compassion, and genuine connection. Join me, Megan Walsh, holistic trauma therapist, and let's embark on a journey of healing and self-discovery together. Let's dive in. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Good Girls Gotta Heal. I am Megan, your host, and we have such a fabulous guest today. Someone who I've been connected with on Instagram for a little while now, and so really fun to be able to meet her here virtually and get to really speak to her and share her story, which is such a powerful one. I am here today with Katie Delimon. She is an author. Her book is called Trust the Flames, a somatic coach, yoga teacher, and host of the Honest Healing podcast. Katie blends science and storytelling to help others understand how unprocessed trauma and emotions manifest in our neurobiology and how to move from survival mode to self-leadership. So, Katie, thank you so much for being here. We are so happy to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me, Megan. I've been following you for, I think it's been at least a year now, and I just love your work, love your mission, love your energy.
Thank you. Ditto. We share a very similar mission, so it's so lovely to have a fellow peer here to chat and to discuss all things, right? Unprocessed trauma and how it impacts us today. And, you know, for anybody that is new to you and new to your work, I'm wondering if you want to share with us a little bit more about you, about what has brought you here to this work. I love to hear everybody's stories because we all have a story that has brought us to where we are today and one that really impacts us. And I know yours is built on silence, secrets, shame, things that I definitely resonate with in my story too. And so would love to hear as much as you are willing to share about just kind of, again, your life journey and kind of what has brought you here.
Yeah, well, as we said before we jumped on the call, it's quite a layered cake. And I published my first memoir back in 2023. And the subtitle is My Wild Ride from Mindlessness to Mindfulness. So it's kind of my whole self-realization journey of, growing up with childhood trauma, being a functional alcoholic in my 20s, partying hard and traveling and just living my best life and realizing that was unsustainable. My mom passed away from cancer. And I, through, events, just traveling the world, I was in Vietnam and my wallet got stolen off me on a beach. I had absolutely no money, no way of getting money. I was by myself. So I ended up going to a meditation retreat. Wow. And that was in 2011. And I've had a daily meditation practice since. It completely changed my life, like not in an instant, but it put me on a different trajectory.
Yeah.
And so ever since then, I've been really deep in the mindfulness. I became a yoga teacher, meditation, all that jazz. And then obviously through yoga and meditation and mindfulness, it is nervous system regulation, just, in a different sort of fancy suit. And so I started to realize that all of these issues, like my anxiety, my chronic fatigue, my IBS of 30 years, I literally I don't know if your audience wants to hear this, but for 30 years, I would only use the bathroom once a week. And I thought that was normal.
Yeah, sure. Totally.
And it's not normal and it's not okay. And it was from my trauma.
Yeah. Sure.
People just don't realize, the dysregulated nervous system. I always had resistant to weight loss. I would go up and down 30 pounds. And again, I'm not saying I was overweight, but it was just, I never felt comfortable. And the past 10 years, yes, I do have anxiety, but I know how to manage it. My weight has been stabilized for a full 10 years. I used the bathroom every single, all these things magically went away just by yoga, meditation, mindfulness, having uncomfortable conversations, being in, a marriage of 10 years and learning how to reparent myself and be with somebody else who has their own stuff and mirroring each other and shadows and all this emotional work changed my physical body. I was like, so I'm wildly intrigued on holistic healing because I truly believe like it does have a massive effect on the body.
Sure does.
And my second book, which I'm starting to work on, will now open up a new layer of my life. Just last year at 38 years old, I found out that the man who raised me is not my biological father. So that was a little journey.
Wow. That's a big journey. That's a lot. Wow.
Yeah. And as much as it sounds pretty shocking, it's not, because my mom had many affairs, and I knew about this guy. I remember him. He's actually in my book. I actually call my biological father creepy.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I knew who he was.
Okay.
And somebody told me when I was 18, but I decided to shove that down into my subconscious.
So painful.
But I had thought about it, but I never told anybody. Nobody. I never even brought it up to my mom. Even my brother, who told me, never spoke of it again to anybody.
Wow.
So my body knew, but I decided it was too much to handle at 18.
Right.
So the second book will be about my journey of going home to the man who raised me and having that conversation, because my whole family told me, don't say anything. This is going to hurt him. He's already 73. What's the point? It doesn't change anything. All these things they were like, all of my family. Nobody wanted me to say anything. I flew all the way from Australia to America to have this conversation. And he said, I'm so glad you brought this up, because I knew, but I wasn't sure. And I've wanted to have this conversation. He was going to put it in the will, but he didn't know how to say it. Like, he didn't have the words for it.
Sure. Wow. And so here on you, right? All on you to have that hard conversation. Wow. Yeah. The weight of that is just so incredibly heavy. And I imagine the grief, right? Like, what a complicated grief that had to be. And along with, I imagine your mom was not here to process this with you, which again adds to the layered cake here in terms of, I'm sure, emotion. So how did you handle that emotionally? Tell us about what that process was like for you.
Absolutely. Well, because I'm so nervous system regulation aware, I immediately realized I went into my favorite shutdown, disassociation. I would notice, like, that first day, I was like, I could feel I just didn't want to do much. I just wanted to sleep. I would like kind of just gaze out and stare at things, and like just really wanted to move slow, didn't want a lot of things around me, and then the anger would come up and the fight or flight when people would tell me like not to have this conversation. I was selfish, like all these things. And then also trying to, without talking to my dad, figure out if he knew, if he didn't know, who else knew. So there was a lot of like, the flight of like trying to investigate. And the fawn also of like trying to people please, of like, well, maybe I shouldn't tell him, or maybe I shouldn't have this conversation. Like maybe I'm going to, give him a heart attack and he's going to die. Like, who am I to do? Like, so
I think I want to pause there for a second. I think this exact fear, right? If I say the truth, it's going to kill someone, and I'm not saying this lightly. I think because I personally, I remember the therapy session where my own therapist said, do you feel like if you were to say how you really felt, it might kill the person? I'm like, yeah, I do. Right. And again, not really, but it just shows the extent to the way in which we have internalized how much truth feels like it is so harmful. It will harm someone. It will completely dysregulate someone else. It will completely knock them down. And then it hits on the people-pleasing good girl wounds, because we've been trained, conditioned to believe that we have to be good in order to regulate them. And if they are dysregulated, then we are no longer safe, right? And we will be abandoned.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense, right? Important 100%. To highlight that.
I mean, my sisters and my aunts, because my dad's dad died of a heart attack, my dad has high blood pressure, they literally said, well, we have to make sure other people are there in case we have to bring him to the hospital. And his dad had a heart attack. Like, you're not thinking about him, Katie. You're only thinking about yourself. So it was, the dysfunction.
So much. Yeah, right. There it is, right? That
Yeah.
is it playing out, is those who are, right, clearly not as aware of how important it is, right, to be able to step into your truth and to name the really hard thing when you live in fear of, right, this truth is going to harm the person, right? It just keeps you so isolated and unseen and unknown. And so how brave and vulnerable for you to
Oh,
lean into
well,
that conversation.
for me, there was no other choice. Like, there was
Yeah.
no doubt in my mind, even though I had questioned myself a few times, like, am I doing the right thing? I was like, there's no way.
Right.
Like, even if my dad is really hurt, he wasn't actually, I mean, he was a little upset, but he was relieved. I knew at the end of the day that we had a safe space where I could talk to him about anything, and he may not love it or want to necessarily, talk about it in depth with me,
Sure.
but he's able to receive it. And since that conversation, like, our relationship, I know, even though he might not know it, is so much more authentic and meaningful. And it is way better than it would have ever been without ever having that conversation.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. And I'm so curious in that, like, how does your body feel now in response to this truth being known?
When I found out, though, Megan, to be honest, it literally clicked. Something inside me was like, this is what I'm here for. And it was an alignment. I was like, it was like knowing that truth, and that I've always known it, but having that clarity was like something inside me clicked. And I was just like, I am now in alignment. Everything is clear, and it just is empowering.
Yeah, it is so empowering.
So
I have to share. I had a very similar moment in my own process when a truth came to light about my own dad, and I remember in therapy sessions before, I remember saying, like, there's just something I don't think I'm ever gonna know. Like, there's something that I don't know what it is, but, like, I feel like there's something there that I don't know what it is. I feel it, but I don't know what it is. And then the truth finally came to light, and I was like, see, there it is, right? Like, and the same exact feeling of, like, our bodies know something. And when we're not receiving the truth, we feel it so, so very deeply. And it just shows, just because a conversation is not being had doesn't mean that it's not impacting, right, everybody around you. It's why we talk so much about having hard conversations. And it's why it's just so key, because, again, like, on a cellular level, you are feeling it. It is impacting everything. And so I think it is, it's so powerful. And I'm so glad that you are sharing your experience with it, because it also teaches everybody listening too, that how important it is to trust your body and trust the truths that you know that may not be named just yet, and why it's so important to seek that out.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. And to be honest, when I had that conversation, when I found out, when I thought of my parents, there wasn't anger. It was just this incredible, probably a bit of sadness, because all I saw was their wounded little kids.
Yeah.
Who my mom, could you imagine? She knew when she was pregnant that it was somebody else's. So I talk about this all the time. Like, I was marinating in cortisol and stress and self-betrayal. I was born with the umbilical cord wrapped around my neck, like, hello, don't speak up, don't stay small. I literally came out blue like a Smurf. And can you imagine how that would feel? She passed away when I was 27. Like, to look at me every time, to look at my dad, like, that
oh my God,
would affect you massively. And then my dad also knowing, but not having proof, because somebody actually wrote him a letter, a typed anonymous letter, when I was little. The story got layered. I was like, okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
And this is another little element to my story, but my mom's sister was murdered back in Mother's Day, 1982.
Oh my goodness.
My mom adopted her son, our brother, but nobody ever told us. So that was the biggest secret in the family. No. Nobody told us. He found out at...
Even your brother?
No. He found out at 15. So this is what the first book is about.
Yes. Jeez. Wow.
Yes,
Oh
and
my
I was named
goodness.
after her, but again, nobody talked about it.
Yeah, nobody talked about it.
And then my
Wow.
mom having affairs, it's like nobody talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
So many
Literally,
layers,
so much shame
so
and
much
silence
shame.
and secrecy. And like, you can just, I mean, I just have a visual of like all the trauma just literally being dumped, right? Like dumped onto
Yeah.
you. And,
Yeah. Well, all five
and
of us kids, just like,
sure.
and we
Yeah.
never talked about it with each other, but like we all
Yeah,
had
I
this just
know.
like
Mm-hmm.
knowing and this like,
Mm-hmm.
this bond that we had these
Yeah.
secrets, but like we weren't talking about
Sure.
them.
We weren't allowed. Yeah. I'm so curious, how is that today with them
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
terms of talking about it? I'm yeah, just curious how that plays out.
Yeah, I'm very open and,
Hmm. Yeah.
I love having, conversations
Hmm.
with them. And so they're also very open and receptive. And
Hmm.
after I went to America and I like told them like, look, this
Hmm.
is what I'm doing. And like, I know you guys support me, but I know you also have your own opinion about it.
Yeah.
And they're like, look, no, like we totally support you, whatever you choose to do. We just want dad to be at least
Yeah.
safe.
Yeah.
And I was like, I
Hmm.
get that. Like I want him to be safe as well,
Totally.
but
Yeah.
I believe in the truth. And I think they do
Yeah.
too. It was scary.
Sure. It was
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so very hard. Wow. And so even more so significant that you had that in you to be able to speak that truth. And I'm so curious, can you tell us a little bit about like little Katie and you
Yeah.
as a kid? Just
Yeah.
curious.
Yeah, well, little Katie was also mommy's princess, so I was a
Mm-hmm.
spoiled little girl. And sometimes
Mm-hmm.
I was like her spitting image, so I looked exactly like her,
Ah,
which is why
wow.
nobody caught on to the fact that I had a
Right.
different dad.
Of course. Makes sense. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if it was this like I don't know what it was that she decided to choose me as her favorite, but yes, so
Mm-hmm.
little Katie, she definitely, I've been told, was quite demanding and like princess
Uh-huh.
like,
Yeah,
because some
sure.
people are literally like, Katie, I don't know how you turned out to be a nice human.
Sure.
So I think she had a lot of anger, a lot of rage or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
because I think she
Sure.
knew also as a child, because my mom had that relationship with my biological father for years. And I know children know.
Yeah. Oh, of course they do. Of
And
course they
so
do.
I think back on little Katie and I'm like,
Hmm.
she was so confused and probably wanted to
Yeah.
question, but didn't have the
Right.
words.
Because
And
I'm
so,
curious, because I know you said you like named it that he felt creepy to you. So
well, it's
there's, right.
because he gave me more attention,
Got it.
which
Okay.
I don't think he was creepy. I think he was so nice, but he was
Got
extra
it.
nice to me.
So it didn't make sense at the time. Now it
No,
makes
now
perfect
it
sense.
makes
Is not creepy,
exactly.
but yeah.
Exactly. So,
Hmm.
like, when I wrote that, I was like, he was just being really nice to me. But as a kid,
Hmm.
when a strange man is being
Right.
extra nice to you,
They
you
tell you
think
to
it's
be
creepy.
be cautious, right?
Yeah. So
Exactly.
he was just extra nice. And, like, he would sing this,
Yeah.
like, Katie song to me. And
Oh.
I'm like, okay. So I think there was something inside me new. And then,
Hmm.
hyper independent in my teens and 20. Like, I
Hmm.
was literally a 30-year
Totally.
old at 13.
Oh, sure.
Did not want help.
Yeah.
And then, in my 20s, a functional alcoholic and
Yeah.
just, I mean, living the New York City life. But
I
yeah,
know what that's like.
yeah.
Yeah, totally. And I'm so curious if we go to 20 something Katie, what do you feel like alcohol, like living that life, what was it, how was it serving you at the time? Because of course we all know that it's helping to soothe
Yeah.
something, right,
It's
within
a
us.
hedonistic lifestyle. I mean, you were
Hmm.
just chasing the fun
Hmm.
times. And
Yeah,
they were
yeah.
fun. They were funny.
Hmm.
They were,
Sure.
yeah, great.
Hmm.
Like, I
Yeah.
regret nothing.
Yeah.
But it's a very different lifestyle that I live now, and that's
Sure.
okay. But yeah,
Yep.
it soothed the pain.
Yeah.
That's what
Hmm.
any addiction does. It's like not
Oh,
why the addiction, it's why the pain. It's like, what are you soothing?
exactly.
But there was
Yeah. Yep.
no, it doesn't matter how many people told me, it was like, people don't change until they want to change. And I
I know.
just didn't want to.
Oof, it's a very good, very good point, right? And I'm so curious. So, if we take your story to being losing the wallet, does it kind of go from, is that the trajectory?
Yeah, that was kind of like I call it my grace from God. Like it was my time where it was like, okay, we're going to really start to shift your path, because my mom had passed away, but I was still in New York and I wanted to leave. And then I left, I went traveling, and I was still like lost, confused. I didn't know what I would do. I was volunteering in Cambodia. I was in Southeast Asia.
Wow.
Just trying to let the world show me the way. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing right now. I'm literally like floating at 27 years old.
Yeah.
And then when my wallet got stolen, again, it was quite a challenge at the time, but it was like, that was my moment where it changed everything. And then when I moved back to the US, I went to LA instead of New York. Okay. And I got on a much healthier lifestyle and kick. Yeah. And then I met my husband and at Burning Man, actually, and we married 3 months later.
Wow.
And then I moved to Australia, I became a yoga teacher, and sort of the rest is history.
The rest is history. I'm so curious, what brought you both to Australia?
Well, my husband's Australian.
Okay. Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. Wow.
So there's a little bit of a twist with that love story as well. So I lived in Australia in 2009 when I was like 23, and I met this guy and we dated, and I thought he was my soulmate. Went back to the US and I found out that my mom had cancer and he cheated on me. Broke my heart. But I was convinced he was still my soulmate. So we kind of kept in touch. I did my thing, and 6 years later, he was like, I broke up with my fiance, the girl he cheated on me with. Wow. And so he was like, I'm going to Burning Man. Do you want to come? And I'm like, absolutely. And so he went with friends, and one of those friends is my now husband.
Wow. Wow.
Yes. So that's a little story. We literally met, and then 3 months later, we eloped in Vegas, and then 6 months later, I moved to Australia.
That is incredible. Wow. What a story. And I'm so curious, how has, I'm sure like in all of that happening, right, so very quickly, how was it when maybe some of your stuff, right, all of your inner child stuff finally came out inside of the relationship? Because it always does.
And both ends. It has literally been, I really truly believe you can heal in relationships. Yeah, of course. We were hurt in a relational dynamic. We can heal in relationships. And maybe I would have been able to do it not in a relationship, but the relationship showed the mirrors of my control, of my anger, of my shutting down, because that's what I love to do. And I call myself mature because I'm not reacting. I'm so zen. It's like, no, you're still not being authentic. And so all of my stuff comes up, and it still does.
Oh, for sure. Of course. Yeah. How could it not? Like, it's, again, I always say, like, healing is not us eliminating all of the triggers and the wounds. It's just having the tools to be able to work through them, right? And to be able to communicate and get to that repair point. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's such a good point too. I was thinking about this earlier when I hear from a lot of women, especially who have partners who don't want to go to therapy, and right, like like they need to go to therapy. I early on in my relationship with my husband, I remember feeling like you just got to go to therapy, and you just got to do that. And really, how much power you have, again, inside of your own relational dynamic when you are bringing the hard conversations, right? The owning your pieces, right? Owning your reactions, right? Even over the weekend, I had to say, I could have phrased that more kindly. I could have. I was tired and a little on edge. I'm sorry, right? I could phrase that better. Even just those small things have such a huge impact, because when we take accountability and we apologize and we have a safe space to communicate and repair, right? That is just hitting the deepest wounds inside of us, where when you have this childhood of carrying everything alone, we're not talking about it, we're not repairing, we are just all being left to like sit with such tension without repair. Like, that is why, relationships can be so, so very healing, even though it feels so risky and hard to step into one, because you're facing, I talk about this all the time with clients. You're facing rejection. You're facing like, I don't know who this person really is, and building trust. It's so scary to move through that process.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will be totally transparent. We've gone through therapy a few times, and not very successful sessions.
Sure. Yeah.
But we have learned how to come together to repair and how to shorten the charge when it's there. Yeah. And I'm not saying that therapy doesn't work, but I also think a lot of people just expect that's the answer. And they expect other people to do all the heavy lifting for them.
Yeah.
I love my women. I do, but they want them to go to therapy so that the therapist can prove that they're right and they're wrong, and that they need to change. And I'm not saying somebody, isn't going about something in the most perfect way. Sure. But it's taking that full accountability, and sometimes like leading by example, and you maybe doing a little bit more of the emotional work. I eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff. I can't expect him to be as and I do think, we all grow at different rates, and it doesn't make you better or worse. But some relationships, if somebody is growing a lot faster and you're not sort of growing together, then you have to definitely like step back and be like, okay, like are values still aligned, or is this,
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And I think you're so right. I think there, especially with women today, like the emotional labor, like, of course, I mean, we're going to honor that. Like, yeah, I mean, women are carrying more of the mental load, more of the emotional labor, and it's not fair. It's not fair. We shouldn't have to do it more. And it can be the emotional tools that you have in the work that you've done. And I'm going to speak for myself. The emotional tools that I gained, obviously, in my training, in my own therapy process. And of course, my own therapy process has been the best training that I could have. And then obviously, my work, I gradually, and again, I was not perfect stepping out of grad school. Definitely. It took a lot of time of me facing my own pieces. And it takes just as long as you have a willing partner, right? A willing partner to hear and to learn. My favorite thing nowadays is that like my husband will be the one to call me out on things, right? From a very like therapeutic lens. And I'm like, okay, especially as parents, like, and I'm like, you're right. You're totally right. I know. Yeah. And it also gives me permission to say, and I get to be imperfect. And so glad that we have in the work that we have invested in each other and our own communication has really benefited us, not only as a couple, but now as parents. And that is huge because we can see in our son who can tell us very much that made me sad. Like that hurt my feelings. I'm feeling very upset right at 2. It's just showing that like, wow, there it is, right? Like we are breaking the cycles, right? That of course we brought into our relationship and have worked so hard on, and here, right? We can see that it is helping and having such an impact on the next generation. So
it is
so important. And I'm so curious. I would love to hear a little bit more about, you have an upcoming TED Talk, right?
Well, I just interviewed for it, but I should find out next week if I get it.
Okay.
I always say if it's not this one, it's going to be another one.
Of course. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and I love that you call it The Lies We Inherit. And I wonder, tell me, like, what is the takeaway from this talk? It's because we're going to hear it.
Yeah.
Whenever it comes live, it's happening.
Exactly.
So tell us a little bit about, the takeaways.
Yeah, I think the main message that'll come back to is what we don't speak, we store.
Yeah.
So what we don't speak, and it's not just some big secret like, I had an affair or something big like that. It could be, this is going back to relationships, is women not asking for their needs. So they're expecting, and I'm not knocking one person or the other, but when you're expecting somebody to meet your needs without expressing them, they should just know. We've been together for 20 years. He knows that I love that. He knows blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, no. And expressing them in a grounded, loving, soft front, strong back, I always say, vulnerable, but like boundaries. You can be kind and firm. But getting off the topic. So it'll basically just be about how secrets are not just psychological in our mind, they are also physiological in our bodies. And what we don't speak, we store in that nervous system, and it will start to show up. So true. Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. And I'm curious if someone is sitting there like, ooh, yeah, I have been holding something, and it actually it feels like it would be the end of the world if I said this out loud, right? Like, and they're feeling the tension. What would be your advice to them
on like what their next step would be and how to navigate this.
So many people are very worried about how the other person's going to respond. This again goes back to we've learned to regulate others before we regulate ourselves.
Yeah.
And I guess the first step would be, you know, why do you want to speak this out loud? Like, what is your intention? You know, and not to say your intention is right or wrong, but it's to really think about, why do I want to do this? What do I want to get out of it?
Yeah.
And then it would be about also the delivery. As we know, you know, it's how you say it, when you say it, with care, with consideration.
Totally.
And the thing about bringing things up or saying, you know, is this a good time to talk? If somebody keeps ignoring you, you know, that's also, you can't just be like, okay, I'll wait.
Right.
And so the delivery, the time, and then being firm, like, no, this is a conversation I want to have. Definitely writing things down. Like, there's so many free things out there to help you, you know, get what you want to say out in the way you want to say it. And then when it comes down to it, maybe you read it off the paper. Like, I always tell my clients, the first time I started setting boundaries with my husband, I wanted to make sure that I said what I wanted to say. I would just read it off my paper.
Yes.
And it was like, I wanted to puke, I wanted to cry. And then I was so proud of myself.
Yes.
And then I was like, but I didn't say it the way I wanted to say it. But it was like, you have to start with where you're at. And so many people think that they could just say things in the moment. And I'm like, no, you gotta like work with where you're at right now. And if this is big and you're not used to speaking up for yourself, like, write it down, work with AI to get a script if you need.
Yes.
And say it on the piece of paper.
Yeah.
And
I love that.
It's just keep doing that really uncomfortable thing. It's like widening that window of tolerance and start small, maybe. Like, maybe you don't go to, I don't know if your husband or your boss is more scary, but go to the one who's least scary.
Yeah.
And then start there.
Right.
And then build up.
Yeah, I think that's such a great piece of advice, because I will always tell clients, like, yes, write it down, hold on to it, read directly from it, because when we're in those situations, right, our nervous system gets dysregulated, and then we're a little bit offline, and we don't have access to the same coping skills that we typically do in the same words. So it is, right, we are bringing our regulated self on that piece of paper, right? Our most clear-minded, regulated, intentional self is there. And so I think it's such a beautiful way to step into those conversations. And especially, I love the phrase, right, connected conflict, of being able to say, this is a hard conversation. The reason I'm having it is because I care about you and I want us to be more connected. Like, I want us to be closer, because that's such a signal to somebody else's brain that I'm not here to criticize you or to judge you. I'm actually here to talk about something hard because I want to be closer to you. So it is such a great piece of advice for anybody that is holding it. It's key. It is so needed.
And the breath, coming back to your breath, like coming back to your breath, because that is the biggest thing that we forget about, we get stuck in, and it is going to be the biggest thing that will help you is your breath. Long exhales. Slow that heart rate down.
Can you share, any, like, maybe one exercise that you use or you often share with clients? Obviously inhale and a long exhale, but I'm curious if you have any others that would be helpful takeaways.
Yeah, so my two favorites, because I'm a yogi, I do love the Ujjayi breath, where you just inhale through the nose and out through the nose with the lips sealed, and it's that little audible sigh. That, to me, it's kind of automatic because I've been doing yoga for like 10 years. That one is really helpful, but it's kind of hard for people to do. So my other go-tos are the physiological sigh, which Andrew Huberman made really famous, even though it's a yogi breath from probably 10,000 years ago. Yeah. And the 4-1-8-1. So the physiological sigh is just 2 inhales. So you inhale, and then another short one up on the top, and then you exhale long. So I do that a lot right before, like, I'm going to speak, or maybe I'm driving in the car and I'm nervous about something. Sure. I do a big, or, if I'm traveling and anxiety comes up, whatever it is you can do it where it's not loud. So you just inhale, another little one up at the top, and then exhale long.
I like that.
So inhale, and then exhale.
And then exhale.
Yeah,
beautiful.
Really long. And then the other really easy one is just an inhale for 4, one little hold because it's intentional, a bit more mindful, you stay with it, and then just exhale for like 6. And then a little hold on, again, that little extra hold at the top and at the end. In yoga, we call it the kumbhaka. It's that space in between. That's where the power lies. Like that's practicing that mindfulness.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And, I'm actually, speaking of mindfulness and meditation, I wanted to ask you earlier, as someone, right, you've lived through childhood trauma, and I know that obviously probably one of the barriers to meditation is that, oh my God, I can't quiet my thoughts. I can't feel safe in my body. My heart is racing. I feel uncomfortable. What helped you to be able to stay with it and to really like see the gradual progress in being able to really kind of truly get the benefits of meditation?
Yeah, it may have helped. Like before I ever started meditating, I read a lot of Buddhist Zen books.
Got it.
But I never meditated or practiced mindfulness. But I was very deep in the philosophy. I really aligned to the idea of like being attached, having an open mind, but not being attached to anything. And when you're sitting there, those concepts really just, they really set in your body more. Like, it's not about not having thoughts. It's about noticing, okay, I'm getting distracted. I'm getting this, but I'm not going to go into that story and get attached. I'm going to keep coming back. And I'm somebody who likes a good challenge. So it could even be that like you're part of a good girl of like, well, I'm going to do my best. And it's like, I'm going to do my absolute best and get an A on this. And so when you do that, when you commit to like just going back to your breath over and over, it is tedious. It is annoying. It like you're dumping cortisol or adrenaline into your body anytime you focus. So you're going to get a little bit more ramped up. Like all these things, for the first few years, I would just get so tired every time I meditated. Don't do that anymore. But restlessness and sleepiness, all that is very common. But I have done like 6-10-day silent retreats. So I think going and doing like big immersions do help.
Your body. Yes, of course.
I mean, there's no other place where they take your phone. There's no stimulation. You don't talk to anybody. You don't look at anybody. It is you and your brain for 10 days, which is a bit annoying, but it also really, it really hones the practice in. So I think a deep immersion does help. And because I also know a lot of the neuroscience, I'm like, ooh, I know this is doing great things. Like, I think having that education makes me want to do it more too, because I know.
Totally. Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit of what is happening from a neuroscience perspective?
So the biggest things are when you practice mindfulness or meditation of that attention training. So first of all, neuroplasticity, the only way it happens is one by attention training. So you have to focus and deep rest. And most people think that deep rest is just physical sleep, but it's not. It's rest off of technology, rest off of social places, rest off of mental, like many different types of rest. So in order to rewire your brain, you have to have deep rest, and you also have to have attention training. That's just how it works.
Got it. Sure.
Then what the positive effects on the brain is we know that the prefrontal cortex, the CEO part of your brain, the rational thinking, the emotional intelligence, that one that we want turned on all the time, stays on more often. And another reason why people can't talk when they're in that stressful state is because there's a part of the brain called the Broca's area near your prefrontal lobe. This is it's what moves your mouth, your motor function of your mouth. That shuts off. That's why people are like, I couldn't speak, literally.
I couldn't see anything.
So that shuts off the prefrontal cortex, your rational thinking. We also know the amygdala, which is that fear center part of the brain, that is enlarged when there's stress. But again, mindfulness meditation decreases the gray matter. Your hippocampus, which is your memory and your learning, enlarges as well with more mindfulness meditation. And then one of my favorite ones is your corpus callosum, which is the middle part of your brain that connects the left and the right hemisphere. Because they do two different things, you want to be creative, but you also want to be rational. That gets stronger as well. So it's just all around great.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. Thank you for that lesson and all the ways that truly from a neurobiological perspective, it is supporting us. It's actually I'm like, okay, I got to do it. I got to sit down and meditate more. It's been on my to-do list as a
doing things more mindfully.
It's so true. It's just
like, let it be fun, let it be easy. One thing I've been doing a lot more is I've been doing things with my opposite hand. So I'll take the dishes out of the dishwasher if I'm grabbing a cup, because you have to be slower. You have to be more mindful. Even grabbing something out of the fridge, opening the door, like everything, these small little things I try to do with the opposite hand.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. You know what just clicked for me, and if this is a very present issue happening in my life. My toddler, we are potty training right now, and the perfectionist. I just want to get this, like, let's just do it, get it right, be done with it, really fast version of me is coming out, and I'm like, you know what? Nope. I'm gonna bring, because I see I can see him feeling some pressure around it and resisting a little bit, and so this is really good. I'm gonna bring a lot of mindfulness to this process. We're gonna let him trust himself and his body. It's gonna take as long as it takes, and that's gonna be okay. So thank you. This is how I'm applying this to my current.
And
situation.
What a lucky little boy with a patient mom like that.
So kind. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. And I am so curious, just from a perspective of, I know the common experience of someone who grew up with, number one, with childhood trauma. If they identify as more of the good girl, the people pleaser, I want everybody else to be happy and I'll feel okay. When it comes down to speaking your truth, and if we to that point of like, oh my gosh, this is terrifying for me to say it. If they have the fear that if I speak my truth and then I'm going to be abandoned or unlovable, I'm so curious, what would you say to bring some comfort and reassurance to someone who might be at that point of, I know I have to say this. This is the next step in my process and I'm really scared.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to sound cheesy, but we know that the only person that we need to have love us is ourselves. And I always, try to zoom out of those situations. Well, do I actually want to be in a relationship where I can't be my most authentic self, where I can't be vulnerable, where even coming from a soft, open place, they are still maybe rejecting me or projecting whatever they are onto me? Is that the type of relationship I actually want to be in? And then if it's a yes, you have to start to question, why do you want to accept the crumbs and call it a pie? It goes a little bit deeper in it. And I don't love the word self-love. I'm a bit more into self-respect. Yes. So it's like, I don't love myself every day. There are so many days where I'm like, I don't even want to be friends with you right now. Like, can you just stop? And, going on and being on social media, having to put your face out there and you're like, oh God, I don't love myself right now, but I will respect myself. Totally. And I deserve to be respected as well. And so I don't want to be around anybody who doesn't respect me or who lives in dysfunction themselves. Which is basically just being from a place of fear. And it's like, if I want to manifest my dreams, that fear stuff is going to weigh me down.
So true.
There's so many people in this world, and now we do have access to groups and the internet to find. I remember when I first moved to Australia, I joined this women's circle that was global, and it was just on the phone.
Great.
And to meet people, to feel connected. And there are people, and I think as women especially, we have a hard time asking for help.
I know.
And it is there if we're more vulnerable.
Yeah, such a great point. And, there's, of course, a sadness and a grief process that comes with accepting that someone who might be still stuck in dysfunction and not able to meet you where you deserve to be met and respected. And understanding that this is actually a them thing, and that you get to make the choice to set the boundary, to step away, and then to find your safe people and your safe spaces, which makes all the difference. Truly.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Katie, this has been such a beautiful conversation. Thank you so much for being here. I really loved connecting with you. And please tell everybody how they can find you, and anything you want to share, promote, let us know.
Yeah, well, my name, Katie Delimon, Delimon, is my website, is every social media handle. My book is called Trust the Flames, My Wild Ride from Mindlessness to Mindfulness. You can buy it anywhere they buy books. Amazon's always the quickest and cheapest. And yeah, I do one-to-one coaching, and we can work with either 4 weeks or 12 weeks. I've got digital programs. I've got a nervous system reboot program that's a self-paced, but I'm thinking about doing a bit more of like group coaching on it.
Live,
so
yeah.
So that's something I've been
that.
thinking about. But yeah, you can check out my website or any social media handle.
Awesome. Oh, well, we are going to link that in the show notes so everybody can find every way to connect with you, which is so wonderful. And we will absolutely have to have you back.
Yeah,
would love
thank
to
you so
chat
much
again.
for having me on. It's been great.
Of course. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Good Girls Gotta Heal. I am so grateful to have you in this community. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review. That helps us out greatly. And we'll see you next time.